Well, I'm here with Dr. Peter Coombe. Thank you for joining us today. You are the principal of the Calhoun High School and Middle School, correct?
Yes, sir. Grades 6 through 12. It's the middle and high school. We call ourselves the campus. So it's
the campus.
Our little moniker, yeah.
And how long have you been in that role?
2.5 years at the end of this year. So I guess you could say 2 years. I took over midway through a couple of years ago.
Okay, great. This is about the time I came to Calhoun.
That's
which
right.
I didn't have anything to do with it. It's just
That's right. You obviously put me in this direction.
Yeah, I'll take credit for that. So I know that you have a wife and you have 2 young children. What does this community mean to you?
Everything. I'm not originally from Calhoun. I'm adopted here in Calhoun. I moved here to teach. Actually, I taught at Gordon Central for a few years and taught high school French and loved it, and was determined I would leave Calhoun as quick as I came.
Yeah.
Then I met my wife, and she's a native of Calhoun, graduate of Calhoun High School, and she taught me how to fall in love with Calhoun, and I really did. And when we got married and discovered that we wanted to have a family, this was the place we wanted to call home, and we'll call home hopefully forever.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I know that the community wants you to call this place home forever too. So
I appreciate that.
So you recently invited me to be a part of the Calhoun Middle School Governance Team. Is that what it's called?
Yes, School Governance Team at Calhoun Middle School.
So at our last meeting, you talked about the ways that you're investing in the teachers. Why is it a good thing to invest in the teachers?
Your teachers are your most valued commodity next to your students. So when we talk about school, we have our students are our ultimate client. They're our personnel. We're trying to make sure that we get in there and meet their needs each and every day. But the only way to do that is with effective teachers. So you've got to have teachers who believe and love kids. They have to believe in the mission and the vision of the school, where you're trying to go as an entity. But most importantly, as I shared just a moment ago, they have to love kids, truly love what they do, love teaching, love being there, and enjoy being with the kids too. Because if they don't enjoy what they're doing, then it's not going to be a positive experience for anyone involved. So when I hire my teachers, when I invest in my teachers, giving them that time that's needed for them to grow, I first of all focus on why they're there. And if their reason for being there is because they love kids and they want to impart knowledge upon those kids and teach them skills they can be successful in their future with, then we're on the right path.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So talk a little bit about career coaching and mentoring. You shared a story the other day of a young woman that you were visiting a school system in Texas, I believe, and the young woman said that she wanted to be a doctor. She was basing that decision on her love for biology, which is a logical choice. But at Calhoun, you take it a step further. Talk about that.
Yeah, I had the privilege of going to Texas just a few weeks ago with the Professional Association of Georgia Educators, and I spoke to, it was a fantastic school system, Alamo School District, just north of San Antonio, and they had a lot of really positive things. One of the things that I noticed, though, was they didn't have a lot of career and technical programs. And when I say career technical programs, I'm talking about specific career-related programs within the school. So opportunities for students to explore careers right there in their very own school building. And I asked this young lady what she wanted to be. And she said, well, I really want to be a surgeon. I see a future for myself in being a surgeon. And I said, well, how do you know that? How do you know that you want to be a surgeon? And she said, well, I'm good at biology. I love biology. I'm good at what I do. And I said, well, that's great, but you need strong science skills and a knowledge of biology if you're going to be a surgeon, especially if you're going to operate on me one day. But I said, have you been out in the community and experienced that? Have you been to a hospital? And she said, no, I really haven't. And I said, well, why not? Is there one local? Yeah, there's one right here, but we don't have the opportunity here to go and explore that. I haven't really explored healthcare in my school. And it was just really, it was hard in hearing her say that, because I think of our own community here where we have healthcare pathways. We have pathways that create opportunities for our students, but more importantly, our students have the opportunity to be out in their pathways. So a prime example is Gordon Hospital, one of our strongest partners, especially with providing opportunities for our students to explore careers. So if I have a student that says they want to be a surgeon, I'm going to connect them with a surgeon at the hospital. They're going to go and shadow, experience it firsthand. I talked to a young man last year that was shadowing with Dr. King, and he had the opportunity to participate and be a part of a knee replacement, which, when he described to me in very full detail, grossed me out. However, to hear that he actually had the opportunity to participate in this as a student in high school, where he was thinking of becoming a surgeon, was pretty incredible because
absolutely.
it confirmed his decision. Whereas me, it probably would have dissuaded me from doing that. For
Which
him,
that's a good thing too. If you need to know.
100%. And that's my goal. As much as we want kids to realize their direction, sometimes it's realizing what their direction should not be.
Right.
But we're so fortunate that they have relative experiences right here in Calhoun, and we don't have to send them beyond our community to get those experiences.
One of the things that that we did last year, Dr. Hawk Lee is relatively new to the community, and he's in charge of our robotic surgery program, and he put together a surgical outreach day with 3 students from each of the high schools, and they spent a day learning about robotic surgery, about laparoscopic surgery, traditional surgery. They learned about suturing, and for me as a marketer and a non-clinical person who works at a hospital, it was fascinating to watch that. And I watched those kids, and light bulbs would come on, and they'd get so excited. And kids always have their cell phones out. Nobody had their cell phones out. They were so engaged. So that's really cool.
I remember when you did that here, it was a great offering. And the young man I mentioned with the surgery, he was at
really?
that very event and absolutely loved it.
That's great.
I just think it's great. And I just appreciate so much. Surgeons and doctors and medical professionals are extremely busy. So the fact that they're willing to allow students to come in and experience that, they're having to give in order to do that. So I'm just appreciative they're willing to give their time and take that extra effort, because it certainly takes extra effort,
right,
to provide an opportunity.
That's great. So social media, such an influence in everybody's life, in society. How are you seeing that impact young people in both positive and negative ways?
I kind of have a mixed feeling on it. Personally, I love the application of what social media can do. There was a long time where schools would not embrace social media, and I've always pushed for us to use it as a tool versus shy away from it, because the kids are going to be using it. Now,
right,
which form of it they're going to be using changes all the time, and adults are typically one step behind. So when I'm on Instagram, they're on something else.
Yeah.
When I move to what they're on, they'll move to something else. They're constantly trying to outrun us, and they do a good job at it. It definitely becomes an obstacle at times. It's an avenue where adults and students can voice their opinion and feel relatively anonymous. So that can be a struggle. But in general, I think that when you use it to your advantage and harness that power to promote the great things going on in your school system and educate the community, it can be used in a powerful way. You just have to monitor it very carefully and be aware of it. It can also be used for the negative.
Well, as I started following you on social media, I feel like I know you, and I barely know you from a personal standpoint, but through Instagram and Facebook, you can develop a friendship pretty easily, and that's, in my mind, that's one of the advantages.
Definitely.
So speaking of social media, I want to read something that my daughter just got on Instagram, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking. When your 12-year-old child gets on Instagram. And so the other day, anytime her feed pops up, the other day she wrote, "Thank you to Manuel Scott for coming to my school yesterday and speaking to the middle school. I've never heard such powerful words. Your incredible words have made me think about my life and what I say and do to others more than I ever did before. You have given us a new look at life. You've shown us what we should do to save someone's life. Thank you for showing us reality, and thank you for showing us true compassion and love." So you get to work with young people at such an impressionable point in their lives. How does that weigh on you, and how do you answer that?
Every day I pull up to the campus, and I kind of look around and go, wow, they actually put me in charge of this place.
Yeah.
And the amount of responsibility kind of falls on you all at once, because it's not just a building and a site. It's 2,100 students and 150 staff members. But ultimately, I'm responsible for making sure they're safe, that they're happy in being there. That's one of my goals, is they want to enjoy coming to school, but also that they have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge and skills imparted upon them. And I have to rely on a team to help me do that, of course. But it is a big responsibility, and I think the number one thing is making sure, like we said, our kids are safe and that they walk into our buildings feeling like they're in a place where people love and care for them. I always tell the kids I love them, and I do. I may not have that personal relationship, but I truly love all of our kids, and I want what's best for them, and I want to support the families in our community to provide that for them. With their education, that's an important part of why they're there, of course. They wouldn't be there if they weren't wanting to gain knowledge and wisdom and skills, and their parents were willing to support them in doing so. However, at the same time, I still have to recognize none of that can take place if they don't feel loved and safe and cared for. So that's always my first priority, is make sure they're in an environment where they get those things, and the rest will come naturally.
That's tremendous. Talk a little bit about creating individual learning experience for each student.
That's a good question. Every single kid, the way education used to be was a general plan.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid learns the same. You teach the course the same way. Everyone does things the same way. It's a cookie cutter type of equation. That's not the case anymore. Not just because the needs are different, but because the demands are different too. So the expectation is that we deliver an individualized education to every single student, and it's hard to do. But we're committed to meeting that goal because every student's different. Every need is there. You hear this term differentiation. That's educational jargon, but essentially we're differentiating for our students. We're creating different ways to meet the needs of our kids. That's what we're ultimately there. It's kind of like the Burger King have it your way.
Yeah.
There's some truth in that. We try and make it so that they have what they need, not just their own way, but they have what they need.
You do a really good job of it.
Thanks.
You were recently in charge of the Drugs Don't Work task force that's set up through the local Chamber of Commerce. Talk a little bit about that and what was your mission with that effort?
Sure. I sat on the Chamber Board of Directors for 3 years, and I've been the chair of the Drugs Don't Work Committee for 5. And it was a great experience. It was a chance to get to know the community better, to support something I believe in, which is keeping our community safe and drug-free. When you look at an issue that permeates every student in our community to some degree, drugs do impact in some form or fashion just about every student in our community. Even our well-to-do kids who are privileged are going to face a struggle of being tempted by drug abuse, drug use, and just they may have a friend, family member, and so forth. So the more that we can impact in education for our students not choosing to pursue, we can't necessarily control the access because that's always going to be there. That's an historical fact. But if we can educate our students to make better decisions and choices and realize that drug and alcohol abuse is not a choice that's going to lead you to a path of success, then we're going to hopefully accomplish that goal. So being a part of that committee and getting to support that was really meaningful. And I hope that the great work continues through the Chamber. I know it will. And our committee, I feel, our community as a whole, I feel, is dedicated to supporting the mission of maintaining a drug-free community.
Absolutely. So let's talk about leadership a little bit. Servant leadership is kind of a buzzword. How do you define servant leadership?
It's a really good question because I had this conversation with one of my peers the other day. There are those people that believe that power comes from authority, from a title. And there's a lot to be said. Sometimes a title does warrant respect or warrant some expectation. But ultimately, the only way you're going to be followed by people, that you can lead people, is if they see you serving others. That's the ultimate form of leadership. So I can't, for me personally, I have to lead by example. If I'm not willing to have myself do something, but it's not fair for me to expect somebody else to duplicate that function. So I take joy in serving others. I think that that's kind of my spiritual gift would be, serving others and being a servant. So that's kind of what I feel is important in my life and how I choose to lead my life. I don't always come up on the positive side of things, but I sure try. And I think others are more tempted to follow you when they see that. But there are certainly bad examples of that in culture and life too. But authority and power is definitely earned, not given, and definitely something you have to model.
Absolutely. You're the principal of the high school and the middle school. Do you ever just sit back and say, wow, this is a lot of responsibility?
Yes. We also have a college and career academy I'm the CEO of too, which is another element. And it's a lot of fun. I always remind myself, my wife, my family gives so much to allow me to do that. I mean, they make a huge sacrifice. There's events just about every night of a week, and I have to be at most of those. And trying to find that time for my family in between becomes difficult. Luckily, I'm blessed with a tremendous wife and kids who support that and are able to make it happen, and a community that allows me to be a part of it. The best part is I enjoy it. You know, even though through the hard struggles and the not so fun parts of a job, I really do truly enjoy what I do, which makes it a lot easier. You know, I talk to my wife, I'm like, would you rather me not like, my job and having to be away all the time? Because I still got to have a job. But no, I think that I really enjoy doing it. But yeah, the responsibility sometimes is overwhelming just because the amount of people that I could impact with a bad decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just that influence and impact. But ultimately, if I can sit down at the end of the day and put my head on the pillow and say, every decision I made today was in the best interest of kids, I can sleep at night. If I'm not saying that, then I probably need to find another job.
Absolutely. That makes sense. As a leader, it's important to create a culture. And I was talking with Jonathan Purser recently, our friend over at Chick-fil-A, and he made the comment just kind of out of the blue. He said that Peter Coombs has had more to do with the culture of the school system and also the community as a whole than anybody gives him credit for. When someone like Jonathan makes a statement like that, how do you respond?
I mean, that's a huge compliment. Jonathan's a mentor and a role model. And, I mean, I would reciprocate that to him as quickly as he delivered that to me. I mean, he is a tremendous man and leader, and the culture of Chick-fil-A and what he's created in this local community and what circles around that one restaurant under his leadership is amazing. So to hear him make comment and mention me in reference to that is huge. And, I don't feel like I really deserve it necessarily, but, I think that it makes me realize maybe I'm reaching part of what my goals are, which is to be a positive influence and impact on the community. And recognize that the school system only exists because of a community. So a school can't act independently from their community. They can be their own entity, but not a successful school. And Calhoun truly is special. I've been a lot of different places. I've lived in different countries, lived in different locations throughout the United States, and been to a lot of different schools. And never have I ever encountered a school, community, or system like Calhoun, ever. I just don't think it necessarily exists out there, not that I'm aware of. And it's just an incredible place to be. So to have the honor to serve that school that is a part of that community is huge. But the two are synonymous to me. I can't separate one from the other. So when I'm serving the school, I'm serving the community. When I'm serving the community, I'm serving the school. It's hard to separate yourself. It's also hard to take that principal hat off, Yeah. At the end of the day, you're kind of, people are like, oh, you must go and relax. No, it's 24/7.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that's part of the fun, too.
So each year, Gordon Hospital and Calhoun City Schools partner on several projects. We've got, students doing work-based learning. Actually, one of your students is just across the hallway over there doing some work-based learning with us. And, partnerships are everything in a small community. What does that partnership between the hospital and the school system mean to this community?
One, it means that the hospital believes in what we're doing in the school system, and the school system believes in what we're doing at the hospital. It's funny, when I first moved to Calhoun, people would ask, you can have kids, you can get married, you can do these things. And you'd hear reference saying, well, when you have kids, everyone goes to Dalton to go have kids, and I thought, well, why on earth? I drive past this beautiful hospital every day. And, the more I explored and more I learned, these are old notions that people had from a long time ago, decades ago, from a different hospital, a different time. Our hospital is incredible. And when you come here, having my own children here, huge blessing to us. A mile from my home, I can have, my wife can deliver our children. Right. That's incredible. And then to think that my daughter will have the opportunity to come and maybe internship in the hospital when she's in high school, that's incredible. 1 mile from our house, all 1 mile, and 1 mile from our school. So to partner with the hospital is a huge benefit. Also to know faces with the institution. So it's not just Gordon Hospital as this faceless institution. Pete Weber is a neighbor. Yeah. And I see him outside his house, doing yard work or whatever it happened to be. See Garrett Nutt in front of me at the school, greeting his daughter. And so many doctors and nurses and HR and office workers and all these pieces, they're part of our community too. And that's pretty telling too. When they invest and become a part of a community, live here, raise their kids, they're investing in us so we can return the investment in them. Yeah. So that, to me, even in itself, is a partnership.
That's a great perspective, too. I like that. So you have a wife, 2 young children. When you think about your legacy, what do you think about?
The reason I do what I do every day is, and I tell all of my staff this, I need to make sure that Calhoun High School and Calhoun Middle School are the best schools in Georgia and beyond, because my own kids are going to go to these schools. But I can't wait until they get there.
Yeah.
Because I could wait and say, well, my daughter's not going to be a 6th grader for 7 more years, so I've got 7 years to make sure it's the best school. Well, what about all of their kids who are in school right now? What about your kid who's in school right now? I've got to make sure it's the best school in Georgia right now. So my legacy, it's funny to speak of legacy.
You're pretty young.
Yeah, I'm getting on there. But 36 and aging fast. But I guess with legacy, I just want to know that that the time I spent and invested was worthwhile, because it made a positive impact, whether it be for somebody else's kids and or my own kids, and that I'll look back and be grateful that I invested that time, because I'll see my children benefited from it.
Yeah. Well, that's tremendous. Thank you, Dr. Coombe, for coming and spending some time with us. It's been a joy to get to know you over the past few months and the excellent work that you do in the community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you, Gordon Hospital.
Thanks.